All right, welcome everybody to another episode of DJ Marketing School. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Josh Volpe from
Hey.
California Entertainment in Rochester, New York.
Yes, sir.
I
Yes, sir.
I've been excited to talk with Josh for a while, primarily because I see him doing a lot with California Entertainment. He's always in a lot of the comment threads on Facebook when DJs are looking for different marketing help, and he's also a contributor to DJ Times. He'll do a lot of articles talking about different marketing strategies and different things that DJs should be doing, and he has a big background in corporate marketing. So he takes that expertise with him in the field. So I am incredibly excited to have him here with
Thank you.
us
Thank you.
today. So Josh, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you even get into DJing?
Yeah, so it's a wild, wild story. So my background, I'm educationally classically trained. So I went to school in Buffalo, and I have a dual bachelor's in music theory and marketing. And when I started school, the the idea was that I would just get a music degree and life would be grand and everything would be fantastic. The problem with music degrees are, this area of the country, it's a little difficult to get into that industry and actually have a decent career and make enough money to survive and everything. So after my first semester, I started thinking about things a little bit more clearly and a little bit more thoroughly. And I realized, okay, maybe I should start learning business and learning a little bit more just in case if the music career never really takes off. Music was always something that I was very passionate about. I grew up really, really big into music and understanding it and trying to learn as much as I can about the music industry. So it was sort of just like a natural call to go for a higher education to learn as much as I can about music. Unfortunately, we everybody has a plan in life and what they want to do, and many times that path that you sort of want to go down, you get shifted into many other different paths. So I started to double up on courses, started to learn more about business, start learning a lot more about marketing. And one of the things about marketing that always really kind of grabbed my interest was what so many big brands and so many big companies are doing to capture the attention of the world. What are they doing on TV? What are they doing in publications? What are they just doing online? And to get people interested in their brand and to understand and recognize them. So I went into marketing, and I ended up graduating with a dual bachelor's in music theory and marketing. And then I was accepted into the MBA program. And that was a wild ride. So when you think about marketing, I'm I'm ashamed to say this, but I just turned 45, so I've been doing marketing since school. So over 20
Certainly do
years.
not look it, sir.
Thank you, thank you. So marketing has been something I've done for many, many years. And when you think about marketing, because there's so many different um, ways of marketing and so many different styles of marketing. For me personally, it's corporate and international marketing. And if you think of that as like the umbrella of marketing and all the little things that kind of fall underneath that, there's brand strategy, there's differentiation, there's positioning, there's PR, communications, there's traditional and digital marcom, there's marketing process, there's product launches, marketing leadership, and one of the things that I've sort of developed over the years is being able to come up with have a strong ability to capitalize on market trends, being able to see like, what is trending out there, what people are interested in, and then being able to market that effectively so that you sort of take a little bit of the market share away from other people. And that's where your value and your differentiation sort of come into play.
Yeah.
So that's my experience with marketing and how I sort of come to be. I'm currently vice president of marketing for a very large outdoor lifestyle corporation. Some of our brands are like off-road, camping, firearms, aviation, and we're moving into a whole bunch of new divisions and brands next year. So being a VP of marketing allows me to utilize strengths and focus on a lot of different aspects of marketing. And it's just something that I really enjoy and love. For the music side of my career and the DJing side. So I started DJing on a college radio station, much like so many other people in this industry. They sort of get their first gig at a radio station, whether it's a college station, a major radio station, or whatever, and they just sort of kind of make that shift into doing private events and so on. So I started doing college radio like so many others, and I back then I was sort of getting into like the electronic scene. I met a lot of people in the industry and in that scene, and I sort of just shifted into becoming a breakbeat DJ. The classic of just
Okay.
using turntables, and there was no Serato, there was no virtual DJ, there were no waveforms. It was learn how to actually mix by ear and learn all that. So
And know where the beat starts on the record.
yeah. And you hear all these funny stories from the guys in the industry about having to lug crates and crates of vinyl upstairs. And, some of the youngins out there, they're like, how bad was it? And, let me tell you, all those stories are true. And it definitely sucked back in the day. So
They
the
get
fact that,
heavy quick.
yeah, and the fact that technology has made things so much easier in a lot of different ways, it's good and bad. So,
Yep.
classically trained as a DJ and sort of moved into doing smaller bars and clubs. And from there, I sort of evolved doing larger scale events, which allowed me to play at bigger clubs, become a resident of multiple clubs, especially in this area where I'm at in Rochester. I've been a resident at most of the nightclubs in the area before a lot of them shut down. But I went from doing smaller bars and events and clubs to large scale events that allowed me to travel out of town, play for higher end clients, higher end parties. And about 9 years ago, a little over 9 years ago, people would start coming up to me at these parties and clubs and saying, "Hey, you're great. I want you to do my wedding." And at the time, I was like, "Nope, I don't play the chicken dance. I don't play the Macarena. I don't play any of
You're
that
like,
stuff."
weddings are corny, man. Like,
Right,
you'll
right.
find me in the club. That's where I'll be.
Exactly. So, more and more inquiries started coming in to do people's private events. And at the time, I had actually passed a bunch of those inquiries to a couple of local companies.
Hmm.
And I thought, well, if I'm going to do it, maybe I could just work for one of these companies and sort of just like learn the ropes, and figure it out. Um, but when I would reach out to these companies, they sort of just ignored me. I don't know if it's just because they figured, he's a club DJ, he can't do events, or whatever the case might be. But
Right.
as more and more of these inquiries started to come in, I just thought, okay, you know what? If I'm going to do this right, I'm going to do it right. And with a lot of guys who start out in this industry and as a DJ, they sort of cheap out, and that's not a jab at them. It's just that they haven't built up, the what they need to actually have quality gear and equipment. So they're starting out,
Yeah.
they just do the bare minimum and they try to grow from there. I, on the other hand, just went out and went balls to the wall and bought top of the line gear right at the beginning. Had no idea how to use a lot of it, but I figured it out.
Well, and I'm
And
sure it helped with your position in the club because you probably had a lot of revenue already coming in from being a club DJ and DJing at the clubs. So it was a little bit easier for you to be like, all right, well, maybe I'll just take a certain percentage of whatever I make at the club and invest it into a mobile system so I can go out and make a little bit more.
right. And as well, I was still working as a full-time marketer as well too. So, I had the dual income streams coming in. So I was able to go out and
Yeah.
afford a lot of the good stuff. And when I started, I was 100% honest with all my clients saying, I'm new at this. I don't really know what I'm getting myself into. You can either book me and take a chance that I won't totally screw up your wedding, or, you can go on to somebody else. I never had anybody who pushed back. They totally understood and they got it. But what really brought people, what really piqued people's interest is the way that I mixed music and how I was able to read crowds and really engage with them and keep them on the dance floor. Was, all the
Yeah.
fundamental things that a private event DJ should know how to do anyway. So, I just started getting more and more inquiries, and it just grew and grew and grew and grew, and it just blew up. And in my ninth year now, and now I book 2 years out. I have to
Yep.
pass literally probably like 95% of my inquiries that I get off to other guys because I'm just a solo op. A lot of people have said become a multi-op, start hiring other people. And the thing with that is, hiring other people, I have to instill my value, my ethics, the way I do things into other people. And then,
Quality control.
yeah, and that would just
That's
drive my
tough.
anxiety up through the roof. So I'm happy just being a solo op and doing what I do, and
Yep.
that's that. So
Now,
that's
when
the
you started California Entertainment, you had already been kind of in the corporate marketing world for a little bit, kind of prior to getting into the mobile DJing and going out and doing weddings.
Yeah, so that was one of benefits that I had when I started. Um, I had all this marketing experience and the education and the knowledge of what to do. Whereas a lot of people, when they first start out being a DJ, they don't know what they should be doing in terms of marketing. And,
Right.
they reach out to friends and family and they try to figure things out as they go along. And, you know, I'll be honest, marketing, just because you can sell it doesn't necessarily mean that it'll sell well.
Bingo.
You have these people out there asking tons of questions about, how to properly market their business, how to build value, how to, take some of the market share and how to, how do they differentiate themselves so that it's different from like the guy down the street who's also doing the same thing. And marketing is definitely an art.
It's a very
Every
creative process.
yeah, exactly. Every marketer's job is to sell more products, more services to the right people. But the thing is, and one of the things that I always say whenever I'm doing keynote speeches or talking, and some of the articles that I've written for DJ Times and DJ Life magazine, I've said that marketing is not about being heard by everyone. It's about making the right noise to the right people. So
Bingo.
not everybody is going to be your perfect client, and you don't need to be out there marketing yourself to the whole entire world. Most of the time, when you're out there marketing yourself, it's about making the right noise to the right people. And most of the time, when someone asks a friend or a colleague, or they jump on a Facebook group and they say, "Hey, what can I do to market myself better?" Or, what are some of the fundamental things that every person should be doing for marketing? Everybody has an opinion. Everybody thinks that they know marketing. Everybody thinks that they can do it better than the
Yep.
next person. And sure, just because you've got a Facebook page with a couple hundred people and an Instagram account and maybe a website, sure, you might know some marketing things or marketing tactics and initiatives and fundamentals, but doesn't necessarily mean that what you're instilling or talking or educating to other people is always going to be the correct thing.
Yep.
And I think what it comes down to is that most people, they're just desperate to contribute. They see someone in need and they want to say anything that potentially could be a service because they care, even though DJs can be kind of jerks sometimes, generally the community, they do care about each other and they want to help each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, everyone sort of classifies themselves as a marketing expert. And it's not just in the DJ industry, but in the corporate world, the small, the mid-sized business world, your boss, the CEO, the IT guy, all these people in the company, they think they know more about what customers want than what the actual customers do.
Right. Well, and
Everybody
a
thinks,
lot of times too, when people are responding to those kinds of threads, they are saying, you need to go do this, you need to go do that, instead of kind of explaining the concept behind it, right? Like
yeah,
every business has a different client, every business has a different definition of what their ideal client is and who they are trying to reach and what they are trying to sell and what differentiates them. So, what works for one DJ, completely removing the fact that we are all in different markets,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, what differentiates one DJ and what works for them marketing wise may not work as effectively for the next guy just because of those differentiations and what this guy's trying to sell, what this guy, as
yeah,
opposed to sharing the concepts behind it, and
right.
how to navigate that the creative process to figuring out what it is they need to do in order to market their business.
Marketing is fun. It allows you to be very creative and you come up with some really, really cool stuff. And I'm glad that there's so many people in the world who take an interest in marketing.
Hmm.
But for it to actually be done well, it needs to be strategic. And I don't think people really realize that or understand it. And marketing it ties back to data and ultimately an ROI. And that's the secret to really, really good marketing is that if you've got data, and it's good, strong, qualitative data. That's what's going to drive a really strong marketing effort for you.
Bingo.
And so many people will, give their advice and suggestions on what another person should be doing marketing wise, but they don't have the data or the analytics or the metrics behind it to really understand if it's going to work or not. And like goes back to your thought about demographics. Every single demographic and geographic region is going to be completely different, even when you look at numbers, metrics, analytics, the data, everything. So what you really need to do is hone in on the area that you're at and look at the data in that industry. If you are trying to follow the advice of somebody who's in a completely different metropolitan area and you're in a small city or a small town, it's not going to work for you. So, that is always an interesting conversation and topic of interest whenever someone does start talking about marketing and how another person should be doing.
Now, when you started California Entertainment, what were some of the things that you kind of had a little bit more success with in the beginning? So you were already a club DJ, so you already kind of had a lot of people inquiring, maybe having you DJ their wedding. But when you were like, hey, you know what? I think I can actually do this, and you decided to create California Entertainment, what were some of the things that worked for you with where you are to kind of help you build that and begin that momentum?
Yeah. So one of the first things that I did was, being a marketer, I have the ability to go out and use tools to my advantage that some marketers have. And those tools are taking a look at the analytics of the geographic area that you're in. What is the annual household median for salaries and financial information? What is the annual or what is the average time frame of when someone gets engaged to the point of when they actually get married? I can look at all these different data points and all these different metrics, and I was able to market my services that fit within that data. There's a lot of guys out there that just they price themselves or they start offering different things and they automatically think that it will become popular or all these clients are going to rush to them and book them for the services. But if you're not actively marketing yourself to how your geographic location is set up or what the demographics are like, then you're just really just spinning your wheels. You're not really doing it properly.
Bingo.
So the key for me, the big one, was looking at what the annual median household income is. And people say, oh, so what? Someone makes $60,000 a year. I can price myself higher up. And people might not be able to afford it, but they look at different ways of pricing themselves or offering them their services or marketing themselves without understanding that they don't fit into what they think they do. I don't know if that makes sense.
That does make sense.
Understanding who your audience is very, very important.
And understanding if what your asking price is, does it make sense for what the average income for your ideal client is?
Right. The number one obstacle with marketing is to make your product feel essential, desirable, and of course, affordable. You don't want to price yourself too far out where people are just thinking like, is it worth it? Am I going to have buyer's remorse? At the same time, you don't want to be a bottom barrel. You don't want to be all the way at the bottom, charging $200 for a 6-hour wedding and, because that's not good either. You really want to try and find that middle good ground where you fit in with 95% of the audience that may come to you and inquire about your services. And doing that research and knowing who your audience is, that's the important part. Marketing yourself to make your product feel essential or affordable to the right audience, it's your audience, because everyone is going to have what they feel is their correct or their proper audience. What your audience may work for you, what my audience works for me, and what the guy down the street, their audience may work for them. So, that's important to understand. You need a customer base to really sell to or have the ability to go out and you need to be able to create a great piece of content to hopefully gain new customers. So everything you do, from your pricing to your value to your differentiation to the content that you put out there on your website or on social media or whatever, all of that really needs to tie into your business. And that's what's ultimately going to give you, the best for all of your marketing efforts.
It's funny that you kind of make that point about data, because one of the things, like especially when I was starting Northern Beat, my business, one of the main things that I had done in the beginning was, at the time I was working at a marketing agency doing a lot of keyword research. I was doing a lot of Google Analytics research, and I was looking at the main DJs that were in my market, and there were three that were ranking top of Google when people would search. And with my market being primarily destination couples, probably 70% of the weddings that happen in my market are not locals. They're coming either from the East Coast, they're coming from Detroit, they're coming Grand Rapids, Chicago. They're just coming up here, you know. The thing that actually encouraged me to start my own business was the fact that the three main guys in my market were really kind of charging the same amount. At the time, it was like around 17, 1800. Their prices have gone up since COVID and everything else, like everyone else. But
Right.
when I saw that and realized, you know, the people that are coming here to get married are finding these three on Google. And then pretty much after those three, it was just a wash. Like it would be different results every single time.
Yeah.
It was like, if I could build or start a business and, you know, even within the first year, get an average ranking of 4, then the couples that are going to be finding these three, if I price myself even like $200 cheaper as a brand new DJ starting a brand new business, if they are finding these three and they find me, and our websites might look the same or maybe has similar messaging, then just the fact that I'm $200 cheaper alone is gonna get me a lot more closings. That's exactly how it went too, because my closing rate, especially up until I began raising my prices, you know, pretty much out the gate, I was charging like around 1,500. It just blew me away because before that, I was really only charging like $1,000. Every single inquiry that came in through Google, it was like a 90% closing rate.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you mentioned the data, because I think that can be something, and it doesn't have to be pulled from one source. It doesn't have to be pulled just from Google, you know. It can be
Yeah.
like you were saying, average income of an area.
Yeah, and it also, you had talked a little bit about some of the competitors that were in your area and sort of seeing what they're charging and how they are marketing themselves. And that goes a long way as also, knowing sort of like where your competitors are, whether it's on the high side or the low side, and where to price yourself. Pricing yourself as a DJ and your services is sort of a little bit of an art too. It's a constant fluctuation. And one year you might be super low, and then the next year you say, okay, I'm going to bump my prices way up and then see what happens, and then you notice maybe your inquiries go down a little bit. So then
Mhm.
you sort of bring it down a bit, and try to find that really, really good sweet spot where you're not having any problems whatsoever closing deals, not receiving any inquiries, nothing like that. And it takes a little bit of time. It takes a little bit of effort. It's the DJ industry isn't just a set it and forget it. You're always
Yep.
gotta keep tweaking things and kind of fine tuning, your voice and your content and the way you message yourself and position yourself. And I think a lot of guys too, they sort of become stale. They sort of just build a website, they set their price, and then they just walk away and they just hope that something happens. And it's just a constant evolving of how you market yourself and how you position and all the value that you bring to your clients.
Yeah.
And value is always going to be opinionated. Some guys may be out there charging themselves or charging, 400 or 500 bucks for their service, and they feel that they have an incredible value. And then there's guys out there that are selling themselves for 3, 4 grand, and they have incredible value for that price. There is no right or wrong, and you see in the groups and you see online and you see constantly back and forth about, oh, this person should raise their prices, or you're too low, or you're undercutting the industry, or this or that. And I think what people really need to understand is that, if you focus on yourself and how you market yourself, then those people, whether they're higher, lower, or whatever, those clients aren't your clients. The way you market
Yep.
yourself to your audience, to your clients, that's what's important. And good marketing that's what's going to build your audience for yourself.
And
And
I think the pricing thing too, like focusing or at least being vigilant of your closing rate. And like you said, the amount of leads coming in, right? If you know you have a 70% closing rate, so 70% of the people that inquire are booking you, and you raise your prices a little bit and you see that drop to like 50 or 40%, it's like, okay, maybe I'm not projecting value the way that I want to out
yeah,
into the market.
right.
So people aren't really justifying the price.
Yep. So it comes down to, your messaging and your content, the way you're putting yourself out there. Maybe you need to adjust, some of the wording on your website, or maybe you need to add something to one of your packages or something. It's just always, 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 adjusting, editing, trying to figure out where the good sweet spot is that you're making good profit, and it's worth your time and your effort. And it doesn't really matter what anybody else is doing,
Mhm.
because if you're happy with how your business is ran and how you're doing events, then anything else that anybody else has to say, whether it's how you run your business or how you're marketing yourself, it's not valid. Doesn't matter,
And I
because you're
think it's
happy and you're
silly.
doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think it's silly when people are like, you need to be charging this much. You need to be you don't know their service, you don't know their market, you don't know their competitors. So it
Right,
isn't as easy as just throwing that blanket statement out there and just saying, this is what you need to be charging.
right, right. And so for marketing, like I had said earlier in the call, that there are so many different flavors of marketing. There's your traditional, there's your digital, there's just strictly brand awareness. There's your marcom, marketing communications. There's event marketing. There's all these different things. And I think a big thing with a lot of people is that they will focus on maybe just one or two marketing tactics.
Yep.
They'll build a website and they will spend tons and tons and tons of SEO and content marketing, but then they won't go out and they won't do any type of other types of digital marketing. They won't have a good social media presence. They won't do events. They won't take out traditional ads in magazines. They won't do e-marketing, email blasts, things like that. And marketing is not just like a one size fits all. You really need to do a lot of different aspects of it in order to be
Hmm.
successful. And I think sometimes people hear that, or they see different things about that, and they automatically panic. They're like, I don't have enough time for this. I can't write content. I can't optimize my website. I can't go out and do ads on Google or social media. I can't run Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all these different channels. The good thing about that is once in the beginning, there is a lot of time spent setting that stuff up and getting it ready and prepared. But once you do have it done and finalized and you get it to the point where you're happy with, then it's just easy going maintenance.
Yep.
And stuff for social media, there's automated tools out there. There's automation that allows you to just post once and it goes out to all your channels. There's digital advertising, and media buys, ad buys on Google or anything like that. There's a learning curve, a little bit of that, but there's a ton of resources out there. There's YouTube videos, there's agencies, there's companies that can help you get up and running. And it's not as much work or as much time as what a lot of people think it is. I think what happens is that people see all this stuff and it's new to them, and they automatically panic and thinking, I'm never going to figure this out. I'm never going to get good at it. And you don't necessarily need to be a master at Google Ads or Facebook advertising or even SEO and content marketing. But just having something out there, no matter what it is better than nothing.
I
And
always
you just
say
learn how
that.
you go.
Yeah. And I always say, marketing a business is like building wealth. When you build wealth, you need to diversify your income. Marketing is the same way. You need to diversify your leads where your marketing efforts are spent. If you have a great website, great. One place I always see a lot of businesses fail is they'll dump a bunch of money into a website, and websites are really great for converting traffic. But if you don't invest in getting the traffic to the website, or you aren't networking, or you aren't putting money into Google Ads, or you aren't posting on social media, or doing social media ads, or doing a billboard, whatever it isn't as effective,
Exactly.
especially if your website wasn't getting traffic in the first place. Going back to the data thing,
Right. And that's key. If you're building a website and you're trying to optimize it, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people and I bring up the fact of, are you looking at your Google Analytics? Are you looking at your webmaster tools? Are you looking at all these
They're like,
different
what's
things?
that?
Right. Yeah. Like, they look at you like, deer in headlights. They have no clue. And if you have no idea, what's bringing people to your website, then how do you market to those people, your clients, your audience, you know?
And if you
So
don't know if people are already coming to the website and just not converting, how do you know you even need a new website?
yeah, right.
Right? Because if you are already getting the traffic, it's not converting, then yeah, you need a new website. But if you're not getting the traffic and there's nobody going to the website, maybe the website is fine. People just aren't finding it. Right?
So
Now,
you can only market yourself to your friends and family, so many times, for them to come and check out your website and all your collateral and all your stuff. But
yeah.
family and friends don't pay the bills, so
Yes. Kind of digging in on the subject matter of ad buys, Facebook ads, Google ads. You have spoken a lot in favor in different Facebook groups. I think I read an article in DJ Times where you were talking about it, but geofencing
yeah, yeah.
ads.
So geofencing is wild. And some people think it's a little unethical. I guess it depends on how you look at it. But
I don't think so.
geofencing is so. I'll paint a picture for you. You go into Home Depot and you need to buy some wood because you're going to build a new deck. So you go into Home Depot and you go down an aisle and you see all these products for deck building and
Mhm.
special type of wood for building a deck. And you're a little curious, you're not too sure what you need to look at. So you pull out your phone and you open up Google or you open up the Home Depot app. Instantly, you are hit with a wave of ads on that app or on Facebook or wherever that has ads for companies that build decks.
Yep.
Or you walk outside Home Depot and you're instantly hit with ads on all your social media. You go to a different website and that website has ads on it for, whatever deck builders.
Mhm.
That's what geofencing is. So here's the thing. You are a bride and you go to a big wedding show or an expo and you're walking around and you're checking stuff out and you leave the event center and you get in your car and you open up your phone and you're instantly hit with ads from a florist, a coordinator, a DJ, whatever. That's geofencing. And
Mhm.
geofencing is very, very smart in the sense where I mentioned you were in Home Depot and you walk down a very specific aisle, you can get hit by ads once you hit that aisle. Or if you leave Home Depot, and that's why it's called geofencing, because you build a virtual fence
Mhm.
around an area. And whether it's inside a building, a specific aisle, or you leave or whatever. So you build a virtual fence around that area, and anybody who goes into that area, they're inundated with ads for your service or your product or whatever.
And it kind of goes back to getting you in front of the people that you need to get in front of,
Right,
right? Because if you're
right,
building that fence, like in the example you gave, we're going to Home Depot, we're buying a deck. We know they are in that section of Home Depot, so they are clearly looking for a deck. And instead of, if I was the deck builder or the contractor that built the decks, instead of paying for these ads to go out to anybody, then the cost per click would be a lot lower because only people that are actually building a deck would be clicking on it, not just random people that see the ad online.
right. Yeah. So instead of casting out a very wide net, like what you would do on Google, you are scaling it down to a very specific niche of people. The reason why I say that, geofencing is sometimes looked at as unethical is because you can also fence like your competitors.
Yep.
So if a bride is walking into another DJ business and they walk out of that business after a consultation, they're instantly hit with an ad that might say, "Hey, looking for a DJ? Come check us out." So
I actually did that
um,
for a wedding venue once.
Yeah. So, and you can fence pretty much anything. You can do wedding venues, you can do florists, you can do other DJs, you can do, bands or, whatever. As long as there's a physical location, you can pretty much geofence anything.
Now, is
And
that something that you typically do in terms of marketing California entertainment, or is that kind of something you have a lot of experience with? Maybe you've done it a little bit. What does that look like for you?
yeah, I do ongoing. I do it every month for KE. And the more fences that you set up, a little bit more expensive, more pricier it can get. So you have to be selective on what you do.
Mhm.
So I generally do geofence a few different locations, a few different types of areas, and it's worked out very well for me. My conversion rate is pretty high. It's about 85-90% when people actually go into that fenced area and then they reach out, and I'm able to see. And one of the questions that people generally have is, well, how do people see these ads? Like, how do you know that they walked into this competitor's location or they walked down an aisle in Home Depot? Everybody's phone. I know we joke about Big Brother and tracking and stuff, but how many times have you looked at something online and you go to Facebook and then you're inundated with a ton of ads
Yep.
for that product, or Google or whatever, and we joke around about how our phones are always listening to us, or Amazon Alexa is always listening to us. It's a fact.
Yep.
Everything that we do has a digital footprint, and you can track anybody and anybody based on what their behavior is and what they look for, what they do. And yeah, it's scary, but at the same time, it's business. And there's no difference between setting up a geofencing campaign for ads and going to Google and setting up an ad buy campaign on Google or Facebook or anywhere else that you may buy digital ads on. Geofencing, depending on how you look at it, you may think it's unethical, it's not right, it's not fair, it's stealing money or clients or whatever. But all it is just digital advertising,
And
digital
when you do
marketing.
that, are you typically doing that on Facebook? Or are they kind of showing up a lot of different places?
They show up in a lot of different spots. So I do some for social. And then
Okay.
also a big thing for me is within apps. So if you have any apps on your phone that you download from, Google Play or, the Apple Store or whatever,
Hmm.
and, an app might have, an ads on it, you can do that where your ads or your messaging will show up in those apps. Those are the big things. So I try to keep things different between what I do for geofencing and then what I do for traditional digital advertising on Google,
Yeah.
because then it kind of sort of they can kind of bleed into each other a little bit. So by setting up two different types of campaigns, one strictly for geofencing and one just for Google, it helps keep tracking of everything.
Now, I have some experience with Facebook ads, Google ads, retargeting ads. I've done a couple, well, two geofenced ads. The Google Display Network, is that how you go about getting ads in apps?
Yeah.
Or,
Yep.
okay, so
Yep.
it's all through Google Display Network. Because I
Correct.
was wondering about iOS. It's like, does iOS also patch into that as well?
They do,
Okay.
which a lot of people don't realize. iOS does allow you to utilize some of the Google ad networks that are out there to display some of the things that you have.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I did not know that. This is a good point because a lot of people think, if they are going to create an ad on Google, right, it's only for the pay-per-click ad that you find in search. When you actually do an ad in Google, you can opt to have it through the Google Display Network,
Yep.
which, like you just mentioned, are the apps. When you visit websites online, you'll have the ad there. Do you find that, have you had a lot of experience like creating ads on the Google Display Network? What does that kind of look like for you?
Yeah, so I've done both, display network as well as just a standard traditional Google ad on the SERP result pages. It can get kind of tricky because you're talking about two different types of things, and
Hmm.
it can be two different types of costs as well. An ad that you might do on display network could be, $1 per click, but an ad that you do on a search SERP result could be, $4 or $5 a click. So it really depends. But the thing is that whenever you are developing an ad campaign for just Google, for just the SERP results, you can tie it in and make it as specific and niche as possible. Whereas an ad that's going out on a display network, it you have that wide net. It can just go out anywhere and anywhere, and you have no
Hmm.
idea who's going to see it, who's going to click on it.
So
So
that's more useful for maybe establishing more brand awareness as opposed to really optimizing the ads for like conversions and getting people to actually reach out.
Right, right. So it just depends on what your focus is and what you're looking to get out of it. Do you want just brand awareness, or do you want brand awareness that's going to convert to sales and revenue?
It's a very good question.
So and these are the things that people have to take into consideration whenever they're setting up their campaigns, and even when they're coming up with a marketing plan, or whatever, for the next quarter, the next month, or even the next year.
Yeah.
I'm actually getting ready right now to build my 2023 marketing plan for the company I'm at. And it's broken down by quarter, and people who get to that point with their business where they actually develop a plan or a strategy. I can't tell you how many times I've met with people, or I've talked with people, and they build a marketing plan for the whole year, and they don't break it down by quarter. And then what ends up happening is, halfway through the year or three-quarters through the year, they realize that a bunch of their marketing ideas, or some of the initiatives that they wanted to do, didn't turn out so well, and they have no time to adjust it and spin it, or try to make their marketing efforts better, because they waited too long.
Yep.
So if you're a company and you're building out a marketing plan for 2023, that outlines your SWOT analysis, your strengths, weaknesses, all those opportunities, all those things, as well as what you're planning to do for digital marketing, what you're planning to do for traditional, the events that you're planning on going to, the budget that you're putting in place. You always, always, always want to break it down by quarter, Q1, 2, 3, 4. Because what ends up happening is, if you have all these plans, all these ideas for your first quarter, and come the end of March of 2023, you look at your data, you look at your analytics, your metrics, you look at if you've received an ROI on all of your efforts, and you're nowhere near where you need to be at, then you've got the next quarter or the next 3 quarters to really change your plan and what you're doing, so that by the end of the
Yep.
year, you do have an ROI on everything that you've wanted to accomplish. So that's probably my biggest educational point to anybody who is building a plan for next year, and trying to figure out what they want to do for 2023, is you can have a plan and you can come up with a whole bunch of ideas and a lot of different initiatives, but make sure that you're doing it in a way that gives you enough time to shift your plan if it doesn't go the
Yep.
way you hope.
In a podcast I did recently with a local entrepreneur here, we had talked about, when I created my business, it was important for me because I had a marketing plan when I started. Build a high converting website, rank higher on Google, and then a lot of these other parts of it, kind of diversifying. But along the way, there were a lot of adjustments that needed to be made. So it's really about watching that data. If something isn't working, just because you thought it would be a great idea when you started the marketing plan, doesn't mean that it is, and it doesn't mean that it's resonating. So not being afraid to shift and make those adjustments as you need if you see that something isn't converting as high as it should.
Right. 100%.
In terms of the corporate marketing experience that you have, are there things that DJs could be doing a lot more of? We mentioned, kind of watching the data, right? Creating that marketing plan and not being as firm with it, like making sure that you make those adjustments. In terms of kind of what you do day to day in your corporate marketing job, are there certain things that is just funny that DJs aren't doing, that maybe don't cost as much money as they think it does, and maybe just costs a little time?
Content marketing, that's a big one. DJs think that you've got to be this world-renowned writer, to actually do effective content marketing. And content is king. You hear that over and over again. And it's true. If you've got a website and you've only got, 3 pages on it, and every page has maybe like this much, copy on it, you're not going to do as well as you hope you would. Content marketing, being able to go and write really effective copy that hits home with your audience. And I think what happens is, a lot of people, when they write their content, whether it's on their website or they're just putting out a piece of collateral or whatever, they are writing it in a sense where they think it's going to be optimized for the search engines. And what you need to know is that when you're writing content and copy, you want to write it as if you're just having a regular conversation with somebody. It doesn't have to have all these keywords. It doesn't need to have buzzwords. It doesn't have all these crazy phrases in it that you think someone will go into Google and type. Just write your content as if you are consulting with a client and you're just having a casual conversation about who you are, what you offer, why you're a good choice. And that's what's going to drive a good optimization rate. So,
Even a
and so
lot of the SEO guys would tell you, write for people first, because if you write for the search engines, then your bounce rate's going to increase.
right.
People aren't going to want to read it, and it sure as heck isn't going to convert. So writing for people in your ideal client, and even just taking that little bit of time to create a post, write
Yeah.
some kind of copy to go on the website.
Exactly. So content marketing is something that I hear a lot from people where they say, oh, it's too expensive. I can't hire an agency. I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what to write. The stuff that I do have on there, it's not converting. People aren't coming to my website, and content marketing really is not that difficult. Just focus on talking to people like a normal person and you're good. And then the other thing is social media marketing. So social media, a lot of people are fearful over that. They think, okay, I'll set up a Facebook page or an Instagram account, but I don't really know what to post or what to say or what to do. There's two types of good social media marketing. Or, I wouldn't say good. I'd say there's two types of social media marketing. There's the people who go and they create a page and they post every once in a while, and they get the occasional like here and there. And then there's the people who are posting regularly and they're actually engaging with their audience. And what I mean by that is if somebody comes to your page and they like it and they give you a comment or they send you a message or whatever, by you replying to them and talking to them like a human being and not like a robot, that's engaging. That's engagement. And that's what's going to help you gain followers, fans, and an audience that will allow you to grow your brand. And
Bingo.
they think that it takes a lot of time or there's this huge learning curve to figure it out. And it really isn't. The biggest thing about it is just your time. If you spend maybe an hour a day just going on your, your social channels or building a content strategy for your website, whether it's creating a blog post or changing the way some of the copy on your pages are laid out, it doesn't take a lot of time, doesn't take a lot of effort, and it definitely doesn't have to be a lot of money. Those are the big things that I see, especially in the corporate world, is that people are fearful of those two types of marketing, and
Yeah.
they shouldn't be.
Well, and I think too, if a DJ has taken the time and done their due diligence to map out who their ideal client is, build that avatar, build that profile of their ideal client, it makes the content marketing so much easier. Where if they don't, that's probably why they are stuck, is because they don't know who they're trying to talk to. They don't know what message they are trying to convey. And if they just kind of take a step back and mapped those things out for their business, who are we trying to talk to? Who are we trying to reach? And what is it? What is a message that we want to get through to them? Then maybe they wouldn't have such a hard time writing it and it wouldn't be this massive daunting task.
Yeah. And, no matter what type of business you run, DJ business, florist, wedding venue, a deck builder, doesn't matter. If you have a customer persona that you've built, who your perfect customer is, what would that look like? And I think a lot of people, they sort of neglect on that. They don't know who their perfect customer is. They're just going to throw out this wide net and they just hope something sticks and, they get some money out of it. So knowing who your audience is, knowing what your customers want, knowing the demographics, knowing the geographic location that you're in, as far as where the sweet spot is of who your clients are, and doing your marketing for your audience, the audience that you want, the audience that's good for you and your business. Those are all the sort of like the circular things that anyone who's trying to get into marketing should do.
Awesome. Other than that, are there any other messages or anything else that you want to throw out there before we finish off?
Yeah, anybody who's starting to get into this business, if you're a new DJ, if you've only been doing it a week, a month, a year, and you are struggling with your marketing, groups like DJ Marketing School, they're an incredible asset. Ask questions. People will help you out. If it's wrong advice, you'll get people who will kind of steer you in the right direction, but don't be afraid to ask questions. That's how we all learn. And, everybody is going to have their own piece of advice. Everyone is going to have suggestions. Everyone is going to tell you you're doing it wrong or you should do it this way. Marketing, it's not rocket science. It's just, have fun with it. Take it, what other people say, with a grain of salt sometimes. And if you're struggling, there's a lot of great resources and information out there to kind of guide you back on path. And that's really it.
When I was on that podcast, the guy that I was talking to mentioned he hates thinking about having to market his business because he's so passionate about his business. But then when he thinks about marketing it, he's like, "Oh, this doesn't sound like fun." The one thing I said to him is, if you're passionate about what you do, the easiest way to take that step into marketing your business is get passionate about sharing the results of what you do.
Right.
And I think that is the road of less resistance. If you are truly passionate about what you do, get passionate about showcasing it, showing the results, kind of positioning that, and that could be the start of a marketing strategy. That could give you that little bit of encouragement that you need to begin learning these other factors and begin learning these other platforms that might be able to give you a voice.
Right. Use yourself as your own testimonial. We talk all the time about brides and grooms giving reviews and testimonials. Well, create your own testimonial of what you did that was a marketing success or a marketing win, and then use that to showcase for other people who may be struggling or have questions,
Bingo. All right, Josh, thank you very much. So that has been Josh Volpe from California Entertainment in Rochester, New York. Appreciate
one last
it,
thing.
Josh. Yeah,
if
go
you're
ahead.
ever in Rochester, try a garbage plate. If you don't know what that is, go to Google, type in garbage plate, Rochester, New York. Trust me, if you're ever here, you're going to want to try it. It's incredible.
Now, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, what is a good way to do so?
They can reach me, obviously, on Facebook. I'm on all the social channels. Or they can just reach out to me on Gmail, djcalifornia@gmail.com. And California is with a K, not a C. So reach out. I try to spend as much time as I can with people to guide them and help them. I'm always willing to share advice and tips and what has worked, what may not work. But yeah, please reach out any way you want, and I'll be glad to help out any way I can.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Josh.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you learned something, and I hope that you found this helpful. If you're watching this on YouTube, consider subscribing to our channel. And if you're watching this on Facebook, consider tagging a DJ friend. Tag somebody who you think might find this information helpful. That's it for this video. We'll catch you guys in the next one.